Imagine pulling over for a tank of gas and having a uniformed attendant wash your windshield and check your oil, or stopping for a slice of pie under a bright orange roof after a long day of driving. Here are 10 road trip stops from the past that have disappeared from highways. Full-service gas stations were once the standard for American motorists traveling across the country. In the golden age of the road trip, pulling up to the pump meant being greeted by a friendly, uniformed attendant. They would pump your gas, check your tire pressure, top off your oil, and scrub the bugs off your windshield, all while you relaxed. Brands like Texaco and Sinclair competed to offer the best customer service, handing out free road maps to help families navigate the newly built interstates. Clean restrooms were also a major point of pride. By the 1970s, the oil crisis and rising fuel prices led to the introduction of self-service pumps to cut costs. Today, outside of a couple of states with specific laws, the full-service station is a nostalgic memory of a bygone era. Stuckeys Pecan Shoppes were an iconic sight for any family driving through the South and Midwest from the 1950s through the 1970s. Easily recognizable by their sloping teal roofs, these roadside stops offered a welcome break for weary travelers. Founded by W.S. Stuckey Sr. in Georgia, the chain started as a humble pecan stand and grew into a highway empire featuring souvenirs and a diner. The star of the show was the famous Stuckeys Pecan Log Roll, a sweet treat made of nougat, caramel, and locally grown pecans. At its peak, over 350 locations dotted the American highway system. The decline began in the late 1970s after the interstate system bypassed many of their original locations. While a few revival stores exist, the classic standalone Stuckeys remains a rare ghost of road trips past. Classic motor courts were the original roadside motels, offering travelers a private, cozy place to rest before the era of massive hotel chains. Emerging in the 1920s and 1930s, these businesses consisted of small, detached cabins arranged in a U-shape around a central courtyard. Mom-and-pop operators ran these quaint establishments, giving them charming regional themes to attract passing tourists. Motor courts allowed drivers to park directly outside their room, making loading luggage incredibly convenient. Many featured neon signs proudly advertising modern luxuries like steam heat, color television, and refrigerated air conditioning. As the interstate highway system expanded in the 1950s, travelers began favoring standardized multi-story motels with swimming pools. The charming mom-and-pop motor courts slowly faded away, with many being abandoned or demolished to make way for modern commercial development. Howard Johnson's restaurants were once the undisputed king of the American highway, earning the nickname the host of the highways. With their unmistakable bright orange roofs, they served as a beacon of reliable food and comfort for millions of traveling families. The chain exploded in popularity during the post-war road trip boom by offering a standardized menu so travelers knew exactly what to expect. They were famous for their fried clam strips, frankfurters grilled in butter, and an incredible 28 flavors of ice cream. At its height in the 1970s, there were over 1,000 locations spread across the United States. Increased competition from fast food chains and changes in corporate ownership led to a slow decline. Today, the once mighty empire has vanished, with the very last restaurant officially closing its doors in 2022. Wigwam Villages were a unique chain of motels that perfectly captured the novelty architecture of the mid-century American road trip. Designed by Frank Redford in the 1930s, these motels featured individual sleeping rooms built in the shape of giant concrete teepees. The novelty of sleeping in a towering teepee was irresistible to families traveling along Route 66 and other major highways. Each structure was surprisingly spacious inside, featuring custom hickory furniture, modern bathrooms, and a small window to let in the breeze. 7 different wigwam villages were constructed across the country, stretching from Florida to California. The rise of standardized interstate hotels caused most of these unique villages to go out of business. Only 3 of the original 7 remain standing today, carefully preserved as historical landmarks for nostalgia seekers. Roadside curio shops were a staple of the American Southwest, offering travelers a treasure trove of bizarre and wonderful souvenirs. These independent trading posts lured in passing cars with massive hand-painted billboards advertising live rattlesnakes, native crafts, and mysterious oddities. Inside, shelves were packed with everything from polished petrified wood and turquoise jewelry to rubber tomahawks and jackalope postcards. They provided a much-needed excuse to stretch your legs, grab an ice-cold soda, and browse the quirky local flavor. Many curio shops featured a giant fiberglass dinosaur or a brightly painted cowboy out front to serve as the perfect photo opportunity. As high-speed interstates bypassed the old 2-lane highways, the steady stream of tourist traffic dried up. Today, these eclectic roadside museums have mostly disappeared, replaced by generic travel plazas. Muffler Men were colossal fiberglass statues that stood guard along American highways to grab the attention of passing motorists. Standing up to 25 feet tall, these broad-shouldered giants were originally built in the 1960s by International Fiberglass to promote automotive shops and roadside cafes. The original design featured a Paul Bunyan character holding a massive axe, but the molds were easily modified to hold giant hot dogs, tires, or car mufflers. Business owners loved them because their sheer size made them impossible to ignore from the road. Thousands of these towering figures were scattered across the country, becoming iconic landmarks. As businesses closed in the 1980s, many of these giants were taken down or sold for scrap. While a dedicated group tracks the survivors, the era of the fiberglass giant is long gone. Highway call boxes were an essential safety feature for motorists long before the invention of the modern smartphone. Positioned at regular intervals along desolate stretches of interstate, these bright yellow or blue boxes provided a direct lifeline to emergency services. If your car broke down or you witnessed an accident, you simply walked to the nearest box, picked up the receiver, and waited for a highway patrol dispatcher. Some models relied on a series of buttons to request a tow truck, police, or medical assistance. They offered immense peace of mind for families traveling through remote areas. As cell phones became universally adopted in the early 2000s, the usage of these roadside boxes plummeted. State governments eventually deemed them too expensive to maintain, and the vast majority have been permanently removed. Themed roadside diners were the ultimate culinary destination for road-tripping families looking for a hot meal and a memorable experience. Often built to resemble train cars, shiny Airstream trailers, or giant pieces of food, these diners utilized novelty architecture to stand out. Inside, they featured checkered floors, gleaming chrome countertops, and jukeboxes at every booth playing the latest hits. Waitresses balanced heavy trays of meatloaf and thick milkshakes while chatting with regular truck drivers and passing tourists. The diners were community hubs that reflected the distinct regional culture of wherever you happened to be driving. The expansion of corporate fast food franchises in the 1970s offered cheaper, faster meals, slowly driving these independent operators out of business. While a handful of retro diners have been restored, the authentic mid-century roadside diner has largely vanished. Drive-in movie theaters were a magical evening stop for families and teenagers cruising the highways in the 1950s and 1960s. At their peak, over 4,000 drive-ins were scattered across the United States, often located just off major roads. You would pay admission at a small ticket booth, park facing a massive outdoor screen, and clip a heavy metal speaker to your window. Kids would run in their pajamas to the bustling concession stand for popcorn before the double feature began under the stars. They offered incredible privacy and a relaxed atmosphere where you could talk and eat without leaving your automobile. The introduction of daylight saving time, color television, and the increasing value of suburban real estate led to their rapid decline. Today, only a few hundred remain as nostalgic reminders of a golden era. So, if you could bring back one of these classic road trip stops, what would it be? Drop a comment down below to tell us your favorite highway memory.